Well, hello, greetings. We are live here at what is 2 o'clock my time, and hopefully good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Today we're going to be talking about magic, mystery, and psychotherapy. So I'm kind of looking forward to this interaction with you. The glasses will be on and off because I might want to read for some things to kind of give you some interesting some input. As we just pause here for a minute, for those who don't know me, my name's Paul J. Leslie. I'm a psychotherapist, an author, an educator, international trainer, and a big chunk of my work in the field of therapy as of late has been trying to figure out how we can create more healing transformational sessions within this realm of psychotherapy. So what I kind of want to talk about today with you is how do we as therapists or coaches create these conditions that we need for magic and mystery to occur. Now, this whole idea to me is about creating a experience, not just for us, but for the client, like a co-creative interaction in which the client experiences something that is so far removed from their ordinary life, their ordinary day-to-day experience, that it is truly becomes a transformational interaction with them. So much of psychotherapy, in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, seems to be rooted in this idea of knowing the exact right technique, the exact right theory, the whole idea of we know exactly what to do when somebody says or does something else. And anyone who's been in the field for any amount of time knows it doesn't quite always work just like that. So I found that we as therapists and coaches sometimes have a real bias against mystery happening, the unknown in our sessions. But what I'm going to make the case for is mystery is essential for transformational healing because we cannot learn from what we already know. So sometimes we have to open ourselves up a little bit to the mysterious aspects of our clients, of our interactions with those clients, to go places that we're not expecting to go, because a lot of times that's where the healing lies. So let me start out let's give a definition of magic. And why do I feel like there's some tie-in to these ideas of being magical and creating magic and performing effective and transformational psychotherapy? And to me, it's great to be effective, but I want to be a little more than effective. Now, let's go over these definitions of magic. First one is the occultist Aleister Crowley, who said magic is the science and art of causing change to occur with will. Dion Fortune, who was an occultist, also wrote magic was the art of causing change in consciousness with will. And Irish author and magician Thomas Sheridan says magic is the ultimate feedback loop between consciousness and the cosmos. And you may be thinking, okay, that's great, Paul, but look, I got a guy with anxiety, I got a lady with depression, I got somebody suffering with some personality disorders, some family dysfunction. Tell me what specifically magic has to do with therapy. Let me read you this. This is from Phil Hine, who wrote a book called Condensed Chaos. It's about the field of chaos magic, which apparently is some way of performing magic. He writes, magic is surprisingly simple. What can it offer? Number one, it offers a means to disentangle yourself from the attitudes and restrictions you are brought up with and which define the limits of what you may become. Number two, it gives you ways to examine your life, to look for, understand, and modify behavior, emotional, and thought patterns which hinder your learning and growth. Number three, increase of confidence and personal charisma. Number four, a widening of your perception of just what is possible once you set heart and mind on it. Number 5, to develop personal abilities, skills, and perceptions. And number 6, to bring about change in accordance with your will and have more fun. My friends, isn't that the same kind of thing that psychotherapy is supposed to be going? That we're supposed to be going that route to help people find out new ways to do things, to alter their thoughts, their emotions, their perceptions, to create experiences that show people that they're more than they thought they were. I'm going to argue yes. Because I think when we embrace this idea of magic and welcome in mystery into our sessions, we may be surprised at what direction our sessions will go. So now let me give you my definition of magic. Magic to me, in this context that we're talking about with psychotherapy, magic is, I could say, the mystery behind these transformational experiences, which allows us to move between the ordinary and the extraordinary. And it's hard to really define what that is because it's not a thing. It's really creating a certain condition for this process, this magical transformation to occur. Now, I really got interested in this idea of magic and therapy and things like that because several years ago I did a good bit of research and wrote a book about some of the magical and healing practices of a community that lives in the state which I do. I live in South Carolina in the United States, and it's this community known as the Gullah. And the Gullah have a magical and healing system that they refer to as hoodoo. A lot of other displaced descendants of African slaves have hoodoo, and then the more religious element is voodoo that you see from kind of the Caribbean. But hoodoo is what these unfortunate people who were forced to come to the United States used to kind of help heal themselves and be able to focus their minds as they went through the most horrific hardships that I think many people can imagine, because they believed there was a magic power that if humans could harness that magical power, they'd be able to survive, maybe even thrive. So a lot of hoodoo was about not so much putting curses on people, but more about actually building yourself, getting help from like the hoodoo doctor, or we call them here the root doctors, to help build yourself up, to heal you from physical, emotional, and spiritual ailments. Well, I was fascinated by this, so I started researching what this practice was all about. And I was kind of from a detached kind of observer of this, kind of like an ethnographic research project. But once I really started talking to the few people that would talk to me, because a lot of this is still a secret tradition amongst certain people here, and being a white guy asking a lot of questions, sometimes it's kind of hit and miss whether I was going to get any answers. But the interactions that I did have with people who were very open with me really shifted the way I thought about not just hoodoo, but I saw these amazing parallels between the magic that they were practicing and my own field of psychotherapy. And one day I was talking with this root doctor, and he told me pretty much that he doesn't do magic. He just sets the conditions in place for the magic to come through. So the rituals he does, or the spells, or whatever you want to call them, those aren't really causative. They're set in place for this causative factor of change to come through. So that really started shifting my ideas a little bit about psychotherapy, because then I got to wondering, I've spent so much of my career learning techniques and theories and investigating most any new idea about therapy that's been out on the market and gained any traction. But I started reading a lot of what is known as the common factors outcome research. And these are past 20 years, these researchers who have gone through all the major schools and techniques of psychotherapy, and through all the meta-analysis and tearing apart studies, they've found out that most every major school of theory and with its assorted techniques ends up working, but all about the same. So we really can't, even though there's a big push to it, say that one theory or therapy is better in outcomes as another. So I got to thinking, Well, this is what maybe the hoodoo man was talking about, because it's like all you can do is here's your theory, your technique, here's your working with this person, and you're setting these things in place. There's got to be something else going on, and that something else is the client. I believe that all healing is essentially self-healing. Bohart and Tallman wrote a wonderful book whose title is escaping me, but the focus of the book is that all the things that we do as therapists really just set the stage to activate the self-healing in the client, much in the way kind of like a placebo. You take the sugar pill and the medication study, and you show that there's some kind of change going on. Well, what's really changing is you're changing. And perhaps these techniques and theories that we're doing are just really creating a condition, setting a stage for magic to come through. So by day, I was a college professor interested in helping my clients learning the latest and greatest techniques, and by night I was researching hoodoo and strange cultures and strange ideas, because our healing tradition is really not that long, but I see ourselves as connected to a healing tradition that goes back to the beginning of time. Psychotherapy has had different names throughout time. I mean, you can see different rituals and processes that were done all throughout humankind's time on Earth. Now, granted, they didn't talk about ego structuring. They might not have talked about cognitive distortions or unconditional positive regard, but they were doing certain actions, certain interactions that created a stage for that self-healing of the client to become activated and to move forward, to bring forth this change. So it comes down to this experience that we're creating. And are we matching the experience that our client needs? If we're so beholden to techniques and theories and standardization and these kind of things, we're often forgetting that our client may need something from us that doesn't always quite fit into how we think our sessions should go. I remember watching, I think it was 2017, at the evolution of psychotherapy, which has been called the Woodstock of psychotherapy. It's like 9,000 therapists from all over the world come to California for this conference. In 2017, my good friend Dr. Scott Miller, who's a preeminent researcher in psychotherapy outcomes, kind of shocked us all when he showed that there is a study that's coming out, may already be out now, that showed essentially that overall there were not that much difference in how clients felt about their sessions with therapists and psychics. And in many cases, psychics actually perform better as far as connecting with the clients and the clients feeling like they got something positive out of it. Now, to me, that's a little bit of a wake-up call. Because if we're not creating our sessions and making our sessions magical, then we're just going through the motions a lot of the time. We're trying to apply something that someone else thinks works with everyone to someone that it might not work with. By welcoming in a sense of mystery, a sense of magic, a sense of something out of the ordinary, I think that creates a shift in the way our clients perceive us, a shift in the way that clients perceive the information we're giving, a shift in the way that clients perceive this dynamic co-creation that we're both doing in the moment. So what are these things that we need to work on? Well, I'm going to give you a couple. I've actually written a free report. If you're on Facebook, there's a place on my page you can click sign up, or you can go to my website, drpaulleslie.com, and download the free report over the 5 essential qualities of transformational healers. So I'm going to give you a few of those and some things that maybe you can apply in your own practice, and hopefully these will help you. So some of the qualities I've found is that, number one, transformational healers who create this magical, almost mysterious aspect of the interaction with the client, they are fully tuned to their client. They are not setting so much rigid parameters on the interaction that when something comes up, they just go with it. They're open to everything. So, for example, you could be sitting with your client, and all of a sudden you hear a certain horn on a car that has a strange sound, and you just ask the client about that. What do you think about that horn? That's kind of weird, right? Maybe that means something. I don't know. What do you think? And then you gauge whether or not they go there. And if they go there, another door opens up to another topic. Everything is open. Everything is welcomed in. We don't set perimeters. If our client is very religious, you know what? Then we use it. We allow that mysterious element of their religion or their spiritual beliefs to come into the session. We will do anything within ethical, boundaries and legalities to create change for our client. And if that means that we have to kind of set our beliefs about what's true and what's not true away and kind of interact with them, that's what we need to do. Here's a little fact you may not know, you won't learn in Psychology 101. Do you know that Sigmund Freud, one of the people refer him as the founder of the first distinct form of psychotherapy. He was very not for any kind of strange, paranormal or non-scientific information. He worked really hard to get all of that out of psychoanalysis, which came to psychodynamic therapy. But a lot of people don't realize that Freud was an active researcher of telepathy, because he was having these telepathic experiences with his clients that were happening so frequently. This strange, mysterious thing was happening. He felt that he wanted to figure out what was going on. So very privately, under the dark of night, so to speak, he and his Hungarian representative, Salvador Ferenczi, were conducting these private telepathic experiments. So by day, he was, a really rational, scientific person, but he was just so perplexed by this mysterious thing happening in his therapy sessions that he didn't quite really understand, what was going on. So he started calling it thought transference. So when you think about thought transference, if you're studying psychodynamic, it's telepathy. Now that's mysterious. Now I'm not condoning and saying yes, that's the way we should do. I'm not saying it exists or it doesn't exist. But look at that mysterious element. How could he use that element? He figured out a way to use that element, call it thought transference, and gave it a scientific name and went with it. So if people are naturally open to creating these experiences, or participating rather in these experiences that we can help co-create with them, maybe we should think about that. You ever hear about spells in magic? Where somebody creates a spell, makes a spell. Well, if you think about it, most of our clients have already had a spell put on them. And that spell is a limited reference of strengths and resources. Their thinking, their emotions have been, from one life event or another, been inhibited to where they can only respond in one or two ways that aren't helping them. So when you break someone's pattern of behavior, break someone's trance of how they view life, aren't you breaking a spell? Now imagine if you're sitting with your client and you go, okay, I think I get the problem here. You have a spell on you, and we're going to break that spell today. Now, some of your clients will be like, what in the world have I got myself into? Others may go, really? I've always thought someone put a spell on me. And some others may kind of understand where you're going from. But what I'm saying is, rather than that being a thing that you say and you always do, what if that's just something that, I don't know, you just put out there, you just allow to happen, and just start viewing that way? What if you're the magician that's there to break spells and create new spells? And how do you do that? You do that by opening yourself to whatever happens in the session. You welcome in improvisation and spontaneity, and you loosen up the chains of any kind of binding theory or technique that may inhibit where you think the client's going. You know, at the end of the day, the client is the one who's really the one who's doing the healing and the working. All we're doing again is creating these conditions for that magical change and transformation to happen. You ever use therapeutic rituals in your practice? If you have, guess what? You're doing magic, because that's what you do. You do a ritual a certain way in a certain place to break a spell or create a new spell or to create a new experience. Our brain is shaped by experience. You know, it's neuroplasticity. So when we give someone a truly creative, mysterious ritual to do that will either change their behavior, give them a new experience that leads to a different way of thinking, different emotions, we are enacting the same role that our forefathers and mothers in the Druid classes, and the Egyptian class, and the African Bushmen, all these people who were doing psychotherapy, their own perspective from their own context, have been doing. So magic actually is a part of psychotherapy, whether we want to believe it or not. Now, if you go to a definition that magic and mystery, you have to believe in fairies or gnomes or those kind of things, and it's okay if you do. Not saying that's bad, but that's not always required. It's required for the therapist to actively become a magical participant, to say things sometimes that your client isn't expecting, sometimes to not even talk about the problem, to totally move whatever the problem is to a different context. I had a client the other day who, after 5 minutes talking about the problem, I just noticed he had social anxiety, and getting him to talk anyway was hard. But he had this cartoon character on his shirt. So I just asked him, I don't mean to interrupt, what's that cartoon character on your shirt? And it was some video game character who I do not remember. But that led into this other discussion about some of the exploits of this character and how he could be like that character. And we went into a whole different direction. But for the rest of the session, we didn't even talk about social anxiety. We talked about the magical world of video games and how in a game, you know, you can always change the rules and do new things. So it was a magical experience for him, as it was for me, because I didn't let myself get too stuck into what the client, what I thought the client needed, rather than what they needed, and just see where the conversation took me and where it went. So if you're using therapeutic rituals, you're doing all kinds of things to break patterns, guess what? You're doing magic. I remember I talked to a hoodoo doctor who said he had someone come to him for, they were depressed. And he said, well, you're not depressed. You just got, somebody's put this mojo on you, and we call it the root. You put the root on you, and you're having these feelings. So here's what you have to do. I want you to go and buy you a candle. And he gave him a certain color of candle. And then I want you to light this candle at 9 o'clock every night, maybe 10 o'clock. And then you're going to walk around the house 10 times. And as you walk around holding that candle, I want you to say over and over again, I think it was, spirits leave me now. Spirits leave me now. Spirits leave me now. Spirits, and you do that round around. You concentrate on nothing but walking around that house with that candle, and don't let the candle go out. And then when you come in, you blow that candle out, you put it in a box, you put it under your bed, and you sleep on it every night. You do that for 1 week, and those spirits will leave you alone. So maybe it's spirits, but you know, what am I hearing? My psychotherapy ear is hearing, well, you're depressed. Guess what? You don't have a lot of energy. You don't have a lot of drive. You're not moving much. Guess what this did? It got them moving. It got them doing something really out of the ordinary. And it sounded like, since they came to the hoodoo doctor, that he and the client were in the same belief system. So by focusing on something other than their depression for 10 minutes a night while they're walking around the house and then performing certain actions a certain way, no wonder they came back and said things were a little better. Well, if they think things were a little better because of the spell, well, you know what? That opens the door to noticing other things that are better. So this hoodoo doctor essentially helped somebody with depression. But this sounds like a strategy right out of the school of MRI, the Mental Research Institute, Wasslerwick, and Milton Erickson, and all these kind of really creative therapist. So the only thing that was different is how it was presented. It was presented in a magical way. It was presented with an element of mystery to it. So let's not be afraid of mystery. Let's kind of open ourselves up to that mystery and see what happens, how that pulls forth. How can we create those conditions for a magical session? I actually have a course coming out. It's an online course in hopefully a few weeks coming out that's called Secrets of Creating a Magical Session. And if you'll stay tuned, I think I'm going to be sharing that soon, and it gives you a breakdown of all the things that you need to do, the actual tactics, the actual mindset, and the way to kind of think about therapy a little different that helps you to find a way to create your own magical session. So your takeaway today is allow things to happen. Just see where the client goes. Sometimes I'll kind of follow them into those mysterious realms. Try to mix up these patterns and try to create some kind of scenario to where if the mystery arises, that it's welcomed. Because unfortunately, a lot of therapists don't like not knowing what's going to happen next. It's kind of our own sense of control. Well, I encourage you to kind of follow your own advice to your client that sometimes they have to relax control in the world. So maybe relax a little bit of control on the session and see what kind of magical elements come up. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time today, but I just wanted to share with you some basic ideas about this idea of magic and mystery. And that magic and mystery happens when we set up a context for that to occur. We set the conditions in place. We become open to what our client is doing, and we're willing to go into those unknown places, to drift a little bit, to get outside of a focus on a problem and look at focus on some place that's much more transformational. We don't need to spend our time on problem. We need to spend our time on what's the most transformational. So thanks so much for joining me today. If you're interested in my work, it's drpaulleslie.com, drpaulleslie.com. I'll see you in our next chat. Thanks.